it sucked, getting up like the next day and realizing, oh shit, he's gone.
Like, I was embarrassed to tell my friends about it. Like, that's probably not right.
It's like toxic positivity culture. Like, everyone feels embarrassed about like grieving and being sad, but I also feel like sometimes I'm worried I'm not grieving enough.
We live and die, and that's how our lives are.
First experience, I think it was when I was in middle school. My grandpa passed away.
Probably losing my grandma. She lived down in Florida, and so I didn't really get to say goodbye to her, and that really messed me up a little bit.
My first experience with grief, my grandpa died when I was in 5th grade.
Not last summer, the summer before my dad died. That was the first time, and really someone really close to me had passed away.
My cousin Rob, he killed himself because he realized that we were about to find out that he had been stealing our money for years.
First experience with grief that really hit me was senior year of high school when my uncle died.
I kind of let whoever is grieving with me talk to me.
Yeah, and me and my brothers, we kind of remember him almost every time we hang out, we think about him.
I'll talk about it with my family occasionally.
At first, it was really hard to talk about that kind of thing, but over the years since I've gotten older, it's been a lot easier now than when it actually happened.
Grief in my family is a very personal thing. If we do talk about it, it's not going to be like, let's all sit down and have a discussion about how we're feeling right now. It's very just like, it comes out.
When my parents are separated, my mom didn't really care, at all. She kind of just wanted me to get over it.
I lost my childhood dog. He never loved me. That dog was a bitch. He was so sweet to me. It was really hard because when we lost him, they were like, oh, he was so mean. And I was like, no, he was really sweet.
The 2-month mark is kind of when everybody expects you to be back. And you're not ready because it's only been 2 months. To everyone else, it's like, it's been 2 months. But it's only been 2 months.
What do people say, the 5 or 7 different stages of grief? I think that you can go through all of them at the same time. It's not just sadness.
Grief is definitely more than sadness because you're thinking about someone you loved and someone you lost. So I think there's a lot of emotions. I think grief is a mix of a lot of happiness and sadness and longing.
It's a lot of anger and pain as well.
When it comes to grief, I think it's not just sadness, it's loss, it's loneliness, it's a lot of different emotions that kind of just clump together.
I got very angry because I was pissed. He stole our fucking money and then killed himself so that we couldn't send him to jail. That was mean. That wasn't really nice of him.
I think it's messy. We have the 5 stages of grief for a reason. It's not just depression and being sad.
I think that if you feel embarrassed about your grieving, that's okay, but you shouldn't, because grieving is a natural part of the human emotion, and it happens.
I think I'm very in touch with, if there's ever an instance where I am dealing with grief, I would much rather express it in a way. There's no reason to be embarrassed about it.
Actually, I would say I felt a little embarrassed after, especially around people who didn't know why I was grieving or didn't know my dad. For sure, it felt like they're like, oh, what's this dude? This guy's a mess. What's wrong with him? So yeah, for sure.
Because I was it's almost embarrassing. The longer that I didn't tell them, the easier it was not to. And so, I would say I was embarrassed because, I didn't want them to know. I was always, the one who was, happy-go-lucky, silly May. So, I didn't want them to know.
In settings where it's brought up, it's just oh, that's not as bad as everyone else's, and so it's just sometimes I don't really feel valid enough, honestly.
So I'm a staunch atheist. That did actually affect my grieving a lot because a lot of people were my family back home are really religious and stuff. So a lot of them are oh, he's in heaven now. You'll see him when you know in heaven. And I don't believe in heaven, so that didn't offer me any comfort, and that's kind of why life's special, is because it ends. So yeah, but it definitely affected my grieving for sure. But I think it also helped me grieve at the same time, because it helped me understand that it was final and that, accept the relationship that we had when he was alive and move on. So I think it's important. I think for me it was important.
I'm an atheist, but I grew up in a family that believes in Catholicism. So, of course, they had the whole, like, you'll go to heaven, but now that I've gotten older, I just believe that we don't really go anywhere.
I don't have a religion. I don't believe in anything. Like, my grandma was Catholic, so, you know, I believe she's up in heaven because that's what she believed. People go where they believe and they go, and that's on them.
I'm technically Jewish, but I have a couple of my own personal beliefs. For me personally, I know that they're always like watching over me.
So I'm Jewish. Judaism gets really wonky when people die. Death anxiety became a thing for me, and now I like can't stand to think about it too hard, or I realize that all of us slowly are decaying away and one day we will all die. Being Jewish doesn't help with that because they're like, what happens when you die?
I consider myself spiritual. I grew up Christian, but I don't identify with Christianity anymore. I consider myself more spiritual. You could classify me as pagan if you want to put a label on it.
It's kind of the same thing with mental illness. They don't talk much about that, and grief can turn into long terms of mental illness. So maybe we should start talking about that as a society. Like, let's get on that maybe.
Where I'm from, it's really hard to get access to, even if you want to like bereavement counseling or anything like that. It's really hard to get that. So I think as a society we're uncomfortable about death, and I think that's kind of weird because we're all gonna die at some point. So we might as well come to terms with it.